Hello, Miante. It's the Christelle. I'm not even going to Americanize my name. It's the Christelle Nadia podcast. As you know, this podcast is in English and in French. In French, it's Mondays, Fridays, and in English, it's on Tuesday and on Thursday. Miante. Summer is here. It's very, very hot. I spent this weekend with Facebook. As many of you may know, Facebook is the social network that is very, very popular in many African countries, especially in Francophone countries. Facebook is still the shit. Instagram, um, X, TikTok is gaining traction and is becoming very, very popular with the young. But Facebook used to be where it was at, especially in Cameroon. So, my Facebook page has been the place where when I needed to send a message, when I needed to write an article about this story I keep talking to you about, the one of my dad and what is happening, what happened to his estate and to me. So Facebook is the place where I communicate. And what I realized very, very, very early on is how easy it was for Facebook to be instrumentalized for a few people to be able to um, marginalize you. Facebook, in a way, is like Cameroon. There are few people who have money, who have like roles, who are able to push certain news, certain pages, and to make it possible for them, the media in Cameroon, because they don't have any money to just report on it. It's organized. It seems unorganized, but it's very organized. I think that very early on, people on top, on high in Cameroon, saw what happened this the countries and realized that we better find ways to, as much as possible, regulate Facebook, make it possible so they have influencers, that they pay to push certain type of stories, to push certain type of news, whether it's political or anything else, to push certain type of people. They know how to histerize the discussion. They know how to drive the discussion. It's very, very organized. Of course, as in anywhere else with Facebook, sometimes it gets out of their control. Sometimes it gets out of the control. My page has always been attacked. It was always difficult for me to understand why my page was being attacked, because most of the trolls on my page are saying, you're nobody. Nobody listens to you. So whatever. They've been saying that for at least the last 10 years. You're nobody. It's because of your father. Whatever, able brat, blah, 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 blah. Now, at the beginning, I was writing on Facebook in English and in French, but then I just stopped writing in English because it was very, very difficult. And Facebook was translating for a while in English automatically. So I was like, okay. And I was never really a Facebook person. So as this thing that I keep trying to talk to you about with my dad was happening, Fotso Victor, African legend, one of the first African billionaires. He was at the end of his life. He was also a political figure in spite of himself. And what I started noticing is that my page was playing a central role in spite of myself. There were certain things that I was writing that I were starting to be everywhere, where people were taking stuff that I was saying out of their context and amplifying them, or saying, oh, she said this, oh, she said that. And the funny thing is that my purpose for going to Facebook was for people to be able to read more of my books. As a lawyer, it was never really a tool, that I used to get clients. It was for me mostly about getting people to write, to read my books, and to basically force them to say, okay, if I like what she's writing, I'm gonna go and read her books. But that is not what was happening, Miante. So I was going through this thing with my dad, who was dying, it was clear that he was in something that was bigger than himself, where um, even though he was over 90, people were trying to exploit him. And I find myself in this thing where, without understanding what is happening, everything that I say gets repeated everywhere. I haven't had this conversation because, the woman who gave birth to me is a diplomat. So I know many high officials from Cameroon. And they say to me, oh, I'm hearing that you are insulting your dad on Facebook. Oh, blah, 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 blah. So naively, I don't understand what is going on, Miante. So I realize, oh my God, whatever I do now finds on Facebook and everywhere else. So there's no way for me to I have two choices. Either I basically retreat and say to myself, okay, by stopping whatever I need to do for my writing, by stop basically living, it's going to make them stop. But I realize that it's not going to happen. So I decide, okay, I'm going to be out there and as much as possible try to influence the narrative. And in my course of doing the Niente, I've had episode where Facebook basically made my page less accessible. There were like fake pages made of me. There were people pretending to be me. There were people always signaling my page, signaling posts by saying something, for example, I could write a page about my books and people will signal and say a solicitation. She's trying to sell sex and everything else. And Facebook, without ever verifying, because thousands of people were signaling it, would just react. And until last year, until about a year ago, Miente, I had never been able to make a dime out of Facebook, because everything that I was doing was being shared across Facebook. And Facebook was saying to me that none of the thing that I was doing was original. So, Miente, lawyer, writer, I write my own shit, people share it, and Facebook was saying, it's not original, it's not your shit. And I was, I was doing my best to say to Facebook, please verify my page. It would make it easier on me. That never happened. So since I've been doing this podcast, Miente, it's going to be 5 months on Monday. I publish shorts, not that much in English. On Facebook, like 99% of my shorts are in French, because my audience is basically French, speaks French, but I'm going to change that, I promise. About, I think, 2 months ago, one short was taken down. Hateful speech. It was a short that I made of a video for the fifth anniversary of my dad's death. I said, Fotso Victor tried his best not to die like a Negro in the American hospital of Paris. And Facebook took that down, saying that it was hateful speech. Post about my dad. Facebook took it down, saying that it was hateful speech, hateful conduct. It was in March, and I appealed it. That short, that Facebook, the real, that shit that Facebook took down, saying that it was hateful, is still on Instagram. I said, guys, I'm talking about my father. I'm a woman of color. So listen to the story. The whole video is still on Facebook. The excerpt that you are saying is hateful on Facebook is still on Instagram. Facebook owns Instagram. So they took it down. And I was like, okay, it's fine. The video is still there, so if people want to see it, they can see it. The second episode, Miante, happened when I said about my dad. They tried to make Fotso Victor a Negro without a story, without history. Facebook took it down again. Hateful speech, hateful conduct. I was talking about Fotso Victor, who's my dad. Hateful speech, hateful conduct. I didn't appeal because it's obvious that they're not even listening to the video in French. So about 10 days ago, the French Home Secretary, le ministre de l'Intérieur, Bruno Retailleau, called people who broke stuff, after PSG won the Champions League. He called them barbarians. So I made an episode about that. And one of the shorts said, Africans are mean and whatever, making another point. And Facebook took that down. Again, hateful speech, hateful conduct. Miente. Does the context matter? Does the content matter? Does the story matter? Because I spent, as I started by saying, I spent the week with Facebook. Now it's very, very difficult to have somebody on the line. You have to write. They restricted my page. I have about 57,000 followers. Now maybe 1% of them are able to access, the page. They've restricted it. It is at risk of being taken down. Everything is restricted. I start by to those guys. Yeah, this is the context. Can you just listen to the short? Go to my page. You will see that what I'm doing, the shorts or excerpts of this podcast, is nothing hateful about what I'm saying. How are you supposed to talk about hate without talking about hate? How are you supposed to talk about the story, the one that I'm telling you, without using the words that have been used to basically make sure that I'm not heard? How? Niente. So, customer service in English, we go nowhere, back and forth. I say, guys, this is a nothing burger. All that is needed is for somebody to just look at it and to say, no, this is not what is happening. It's very, very easy. In English, Miante, Facebook customer service, it's okay. Customer service on Facebook and in general, in English, is always better. Always. They're not going to always solve your problem. They're not going to have an answer to your question, but they're most of the time are going to be professional. They're going to try to help you. They're going to make suggestions. But Miante, that is not the same experience in French. It never is. To me, when I was thinking about not just Facebook, but that issue of language, what is hate? What is hate speech? What is hateful conduct? The biggest point here is about who is valued and what is valued. I don't think that Facebook has that much consideration for its Cameroonian users. I'm not going to say African, I'm just going to say Cameroonian users. I don't think they do. I don't think it matters to them that it can be instrumentalized by people, from the top, people who have money. I don't think it matters that much to them. Facebook now is too big. And that issue is like small potatoes. Cameroonian users, African users, I'm guessing, are just there to, well, where else are they going to go? What is their value? Sure, it's unfair, but does it matter? Speech in America it matters. In Europe it matters. But I'm not sure it matters. Maybe in China, which country? Russia, I'm not sure. Is Facebook still in Russia? But anywhere else, Cameroon, yeah, does it matter? I don't think Facebook cares. That's what I got from my interaction. It doesn't matter. Fairness, it doesn't matter. Many people figure out, how to manipulate the technology and how to get Facebook to make certain decisions. And they know that since there's no review, none really. So they act first and think later, knowing full well that given that the media in Cameroon is like, this is small potatoes, Facebook is too big anyway, doesn't matter. And the language question, Miende. The language question key. And of course, the country of origin question is key. The bigger point here, Miende, is about technology and how we can, marginalize you when there is no human to contextualize it, to look at the way it is used. To me, that's very, very dangerous. What is going to happen to African or content about Africa with AI? Artificial intelligence. How? What is going to happen, Yante? What is going to happen when my content, is used by AI, refurbished, repurposed, whatever? What do? You don't have the means to play the game, to complain and to keep pushing. It takes energy. It takes resources, Yante. And you have to have somebody who looks at all of those things. So I'm thinking, oh my God, excuse my French, but I'm effed. I'm already trying to tell a story about marginalization, discrimination, predation, Miente. And I'm trying to do it by using the tools that are my disposal. Facebook has no interest in being fair. It's making sure that it is being fair. How? Addressing the key questions of equality, justice, fairness, equity. Talking about what I'm trying to talk about in this podcast is very, very difficult. With this of obstacle, where the technology's been instrumentalized to push you into corner. And there are no safeguards. Maybe I'm making a mountain out of a molehill. You tell me. But this unevenness makes it very, very hard for the marginalized to tell their story. You wonder when stuff like this happens, if you have a shot. I'm not asking for things to be given to me, but I want to have a shot to be heard in this world where it's so damn hard. How do you do it? You start with this idea that it's not relevant. What you're saying is not relevant. Your father, Fotso Victor, is a public figure. Amazing story. Cameroonian history, African history, crimes, or at the very least allegations of crimes. The American Hospital of Paris. So many things. And yet, what is relevant? Even on social media. When Facebook, with its presentation, the way it deals with African content or content about Africa, shows that no. We're going to let the noise, the mass, the power drive everything. And we're not going to care about fairness. It's not even the context that is going to decide what is hate. It's just the boom. There's no policy there. It's just the noise, whatever. And as I said, Niente, it's not even a question of having a debate about what is hateful or not. There's no issue here, Niente. It's just mislabeling. It's very, very basic. Very, very, very basic, Niente. Last year, some of my content where I was talking about my books, what Facebook used to make sure that very, very few people saw it, even my followers, even in my feed. The excuse there was solicitation. When anybody just reading it would be saying, no, 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 something happened. But people just flagged it, complained about it. And they were like, okay, if people, when it comes to African content, some content about Africa or just content related to Africa, say it. That's the case. We're not going to examine it. When it comes to its African content and its African customers or to everything related to that, Facebook is still missing the mark. And its customer service in English is fine. You know, it's not very helpful, but it's decent. But in French, especially when those guys know that they're dealing with people who are not French or who have a decent chance to be Africans, their customer service sucks. Miente, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast in English every Tuesday and every Thursday. Miente. In French is Mondays and Fridays. I will see you on Thursday.